All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Reynolds Company Tech Talk. Today we're going to talk about Allen Bradley solid state overload relays and some of the changes and updates that are out and available. Just as a reminder, these Tech Talks are part of a series that Reynolds is putting on. We have some upcoming Tech Talks over the next few weeks. You'll see there on Thursday, June 4th, we have a part 3 of our industrial networking series that Brandon Singh will be going over, discussing resilient networks, device level rings, followed up with the next session on June 16th. Again, with resilient networks and parallel redundancy protocol. Then Wednesday, June 17th, we'll be going over connected plant-wide Ethernet architectures, as well as Tuesday, June 23rd, will be part 6 of that series, discussing secure and control system networks with SIP security. And then we also have the user group meetings that will be going on. And this is a little more in-depth conversation. The Tech Talks are usually 30 to 45 minutes, talking about Rockwell automation or Allen Bradley products, technologies, or migration information. The user group is a deeper dive. And that'll be on Thursday, June 18th will be the next one. And we'll be discussing ControlLogix redundancy. So please join us for those. You can go to the website and register and add that to your calendar. And we'd be happy to have you there. Also, as a reminder, if you've attended some of our other Tech Talks, Rockwell Automation is having their Rock Live event. We'll begin next week, actually, June 10th, and go through the 19th. And it's a new form as we progress through these new times that will be similar to the RS Tech Ed event. There'll be online and virtual seminars that you can attend, as well as labs, so virtual labs that you can do. There's 18 interactive labs that will be offered each day. You can see the different categories it's going to focus on there. So you can go to Rockwell Automation's website and register for that. I would say register sooner than later, especially for those hands-on labs. I know quite a few of those are getting booked already, but definitely come join us for that in Rockwell Automation, and we'll see you there hopefully. So I'd like to go through introductions. My name is David Aldrich. I'll be one of the presenters today. I'm an automation specialist with the Reynolds Company out of Dallas, Texas. Cover most of North Texas area, primarily focused around industrial controls, components, safety, and sensor products. Today, Kevin Peterson will be joining me as well. He'll be a presenter at the end as well, going over the E3 to E300 information, and same role in that I have, but out of the Houston area. And then we have 2 panelists with us today. So if you have any questions as we go along, please add those to the chat or the Q&A, and we'll get those answered. And Gary Scott is an automation specialist here in the Dallas area as well. That helps us cover the North Texas area, as well as Todd Absher. Again, we all focus in the industrial control, safety, and sensor area. And Todd's out of Houston as well. So topics for today, we're going to be discussing the E1 Plus solid state overload relay end of life notice. And then we'll go into an introduction to the new E100 solid state overload relay. And then finally, we'll finish up with a conversation around the E3 and E3 Plus device net overload relays and the migration path to the E300s. So to get us started, the E1 Plus overload has been the bread and butter for the Rockwell Automation solid state overload relays going on 18 plus years. This past December, the end of life notice went out on this product, and that makes it time for us to start looking at the new products that are going to be available and start working on converting or conversions over of the older products, the E1 Plus to the newer product family. Part of this was due to the microprocessors that are being used in the E1 Plus family, with it being 18 plus years old. Those chips are no longer available. So Rockwell has come up with a new basic solid state overload relay, the next generation E100 overload relay with the latest microprocessors and technology inside. Keynote here is April 2021 will be the discontinuation date, so no longer available for sale. So I mean, it seems like a little bit of a long way away, but it's crazy how fast that time goes by. Next thing you know, that'll be here. So with that happening, the higher volume items may or may not be available in April of 2021. So it's a good time to start looking at what you have in your facility or what you're using in your control panels, and start coming up with a path to move forward from the E1 Plus to the E100 product. Just a little history on the E1 Plus. This product was offered in two versions. The E1 version, which was a class 10 trip manual overload, manual reset on the overload, as well as a 1 to 5 adjustment range in the overload current, the full load amps. And then we also offered it in the E1 Plus version, which had the adjustable trip range or trip settings from class 10 all the way up to class 20, class 30, as well as automatic and manual reset. And then also the option to add on additional protection modules on the side, as well as additional network modules on the side of it. So it kind of took that basic level overload relay, enhanced it, and gave you some more features out of that basic overload. These slides will be available for you at the end. So please, if you're looking for these slides, let us know, because there's lots of helpful information that we have in these slides. You'll see here on this page are links to the web pages for both the E1 Plus and the E100. So the migration path for the E1 Plus is to the E100 overload. And we'll kind of go into some of the details and differences that you may see in the E100. But the biggest difference really is going to be the E1 Plus family had the addition of communication modules on the side, particularly Ethernet and DeviceNet. The E100 at launch will not have any communication options. Rockwell is looking at some additional options below Ethernet that the hopefully the E100s will connect to and be able to pull that information back through Ethernet at some point, but at launch, that's not going to be available. So any standalone applications that you don't have communications on, the E100 will be the latest technology for a basic overload that you'll use for an E1 Plus. However, again, if you do have a networked option on an E100, you will look at the E300 product line, and that's a product that Rockwell's now had out for going on 4 or 5 years. So nothing new there, but on that guy, but that'll be the direction you'll go for networked options. Out of the gate, the E100 will, mount up to the NEMA contactors and the IEC contactors that Rockwell currently sells. So a little more information on the E100. So again, the E100 has been, updated to the latest, microprocessor ASIC chips. So with that, it gives us some increased accuracy and repeatability. So better current measurement, electronic design, better thermal memory. Still has the phase loss protection, but a lower heat dissipation as well. Super rugged construction like the predecessor as well. Can be direct mounted to IEC contactors or NEMA direct mount to those contactors as well. And then some of the versatility and expandability of the new E100 will have, the optional pass-through design, which we had a limited version of that in the E1 Plus. You'll see a larger option in that range. You know, more adjustable trip classes, reset modes, and then the protection modules that additional protection modules for ground fault and jam are now in one device instead of several. So kind of limiting that number of SKUs you have to keep on the shelf. Again, important to note, you know, can't stress enough that the end of life is now, and then the discontinuation will be in April 2021. So please start, you know, taking a look at what you're using. If you have to update bill materials or anything like that, you know, work with us and your salespeople will be more than happy to help you with that. As far as looking at the replacement from the E100 versus the E1 Plus, all the different frame sizes, you will see that they are the exact same dimensions. So panel space shouldn't be an issue for the E100 when we're replacing the E1 Plus. So physically the same size, even the DIN rail mount adapters are the same size, so the mounting holes and everything line up. This just shows the lower frame size B. Again, the larger frame sizes, you can see that all the dimensions are exactly the same. All the mounting holes will be the same. I will note that the reset buttons are very similar, so you shouldn't have any issues if you have overload reset buttons on your enclosures. That shouldn't be an issue either when you go to replace these to the new E100s. And then again, on the larger sizes as well, you'll see that the dimensions are, again, the same. So, you know, when you're moving forward in this migration, when you're changing standalone device to standalone device, it should be pretty much a direct replacement of the E1 Plus to an E100. With that being said, there is a really good migration document that Rockwell's published already. If you don't have that, please let us know or your salesperson know, and we'll make sure you get a copy of that. The E100, the migration guide does a good job of explaining, you know, why the you know, the migration to the newest one, as well as it has a component cross-reference table at the back end of it. So you can take a look at any of the current part numbers that you have with an E1 Plus, and it'll tell you, you know, what contactor or it was mounted to, provides you the full load amp range, and then the recommended replacement part. And I say recommended because there's a little bit of difference, a little shift in the new E100, and we'll go through that when we do the overview on the E100, just so you have a good understanding on that. So please make sure that you reach out and get this if you need the migration guide. With that, again, if you have questions, please drop those in the question and answers section, and we'll get those answered for you. But we'll go into the overview on the new E100 and some of the changes with the E100 versus the E1 and the E1 Plus. So this slide provides a good overview of the current portfolio for the solid state overload relays. You can kind of see that we have the basic, performance, and premium overloads, very similar to what you see in the marketplace. The 193T bulletin is the traditional bimetal overload, not solid state. It is a non-network device. And then the E100 then falls into the, right above basic, starting to get into performance level. And then we offer again the E300 at the high end, which is networked with Ethernet or DeviceNet. And then the E200 kind of falls right between that. That's a standalone version of the E300 that can be configured with a parameter module on the front. Some of the feature comparisons between the offering, again, the E100 solid state overload relay provides overload, phase loss, ground fault, jam protection. Diagnostic features are percentage of full load amps, thermal capacity, and then as you require additional information, you jump up to the E200 or the E300. And the E300 really is meant for, premier integration with your Logix controller. You can pull over voltage, power, energy with that device, as well as other additional features as well. The E100, you can kind of see here on this slide, again, that new chip, increases the accuracy and repeatability within the unit itself. It's a rugged design. It's self-powered. It still has the wide current adjustment range of 1 to 5 amps. Again, can be direct mounted to an IEC or NEMA contactor. And then, have plenty of versatility with the optional pass-through design, which is now, there's more options in that than what we had in the E1, E1 Plus. The adjustable trip classes, and again, with everybody shipping all over the world these days and being a global company, the certifications are there for global certifications. So no matter if you're designing for here in the States or if you're designing for, across the globe, that the certifications are there. I see there's a couple of questions that came in. Is the E1 and E1 Plus still shipping? Yes, they are still shipping. Again, the discontinuation date is April of 2021, and they are going to ship until then. And again, unless there's a high volume item that they run out of the chips for to manufacture, but the sooner to start the sooner you can start converting, the better. So those are still shipping. And then we'll talk about the E100, what's shipping now and what's going to start shipping here shortly here in a few minutes. So the E100, like the E1 Plus, there's 2 versions of it as well. 2 styles to choose from. There's the 193-1 EE, which is the basic version. And this one is probably going to be used for 90 to 95% of the applications out there. It has a rated current range of 0.1 to 100 amps. It can be used for single phase or 3-phase applications. That is a difference between the E1 Plus family before. The E1 Plus, you had to specify the product to be used with a single phase application or 3-phase. The new E100s can be used with either single phase or 3-phase applications. The basic version also has the ability to change between trip class 10 or 20. And again, the reset type is manual only on the basic version. Looking at past history and sales on what we've sold in the E1 Plus family, the basic version should handle 90 to 95% of the applications out there, depending on what your needs are. If not, we do offer the E100 will be offered in the advanced version, which is the Bolton 193-1 EF. Similar to the basic version, it's 0.1 to 100 amps, single phase or 3-phase. And then anything above 100 amps we can use with external CTs and go up to 800 amps. This one has a trip class of 10, 15, 20, or 30, and also offers both manual or automatic reset. The other big distinction between the basic version and advanced version, as you can see there in the top of the screen, there is a expansion port for accessories. And that is for protection accessories that are available for the E100. So those are the 2 differences in the E100. So when you're looking at switching, again, we had a lot of customers that probably use the E1 Plus, where nowadays you can actually drop down to the basic version, due to that trip class 10 and 20. That was usually one of the kickers that kicked us up into the E1 Plus in the old model. So when you're looking at your conversions, again, I would start with the basic, and if you need any additional features, such as automatic reset or ground fault or jam protection, that's when I would move to the advanced version. Quick catalog structure. Starts with a Bolton 193 if you're going to connect to an IEC contactor, or 592 if you're connecting to a NEMA contactor, and this is going to be a -1. That one, tells us that it's an E100 versus the older E1 Plus or E1 Plus devices, and then you'll check, select between a basic version, advanced version, and then you can choose the adjustment range, and then the last part of that part number will be based on how it's connecting to either a contactor or a panel mount. So the E100 was actually made available in February of this year. It was introduced at Automation Fair last year. The items that are on the screen right now are currently shipping from the factory. So basically, it's all the basic versions up to 55 amp for both IEC direct mount and pass through. Those versions are currently shipping. The items highlighted in gray were planned for a March 2020 ship date. Obviously, with the current atmosphere out there and things going on around the world, that got pushed a little bit. My understanding is that end of this week or next week, Rockwell will have those released as well, and that will fulfill the advanced version as well as the external CT versions, all the way up to 800 amps. And then there's the last phase of this will be for the NEMA direct mounts, and that's scheduled for a July ship date. So the basic versions are out currently. They can be purchased. The advanced versions will be out next, hopefully here in the next week or two. And then the NEMA contactors again will be the last part of this, and you'll see that hopefully end of July, first part of August. A quick look kind of at the accessories that are available. There is a reset adapter available for the front of it, as well as a tamper shield that'll be available for the E100, and then also a tamper shield for the accessory unit, protection accessory unit. Remote resetting of the overload relay can be done with a remote reset solenoid available at 24 volt DC, 120 and 240 volt. This just snaps onto the front of the overload relay and provide a signal, and it'll push the reset button on the front of the overload for you. We also have the DIN rail panel mount adapters. So if you need to mount one that's standalone, again, the other option now is to use the pass-through version of the overload relay instead of having to add an additional part. There are a couple accessories, indication displays, and electronic reset and indication display. Typically, we'll see these in MCC units quite a bit. I will point out that the universal protection module is there on the right-hand side. That's the 193-1 EGJ. In the past, the sidecar modules on the E1 Plus, you would select whether you wanted a ground fault or if you wanted jam protection. All that's going to be done in one unit now. When you're looking at the screen there, the saved space in the panel, if you're using an IEC contactor, it will actually mount to the front of the contactor versus mounted on the side. If you're not using an IEC contactor, there's a DIN rail mount mountain foot that you can use with that device as well. As far as the E100 and the options for mounting to contactors, again, any of the Bolton 100Cs that we have out today, the E100s will mount to, direct mount to, as well as any of our Bolton 500 NEMA starters. They'll direct mount to those as well. Anything that's needed outside of this, again, we do have the pass-through option or the DIN rail mount adapters as needed. And then just to reiterate again, the E100 at launch will have no networking available. I know there are the 193-ETNs out in the field. So if you are, or if you do have these in your facility, just make sure to understand that that will be a migration to an E100 overload relay at this point. If it's in a motor control center, work with the motor control center groups and work on most likely having to get a new bucket at this point until there's a possibility to do an upgrade in the panel. That's one of the things that Reynolds has been looking at. We know there's not as much room in some of those, but just be aware of that. So if you do have them in NCC buckets, it's definitely something to start looking at if you have the Ethernet sidecar module in those, to get a plan forward to address that. Then as far as documentation that's available for the E100, there's a new product profile that's available. It is on the website already, so all the documentation can be downloaded there as well. There's a new motor protection solutions brochure out there. A new product profile, gives you a good overview of the product, list all the accessories that are available for it. And then there's a new tech data document out there for the overload relays, and the tech data is more of a selection guide as well these days. And then there's a new list of installation instruction sheets for the different overload relays that are out there, as well as a user manual now as well. For those of you that use Rockwell Automation's Proposal Works, it is in Proposal Works already. You can filter it by going and typing E100, or you can go to Electronic Overload Relays. It is there. They are still adding some of the stuff to Proposal Works. So if you're working on a contactor, you can add an E100. I believe they've integrated that in as well. It is also on the online configurator too that you can use on the Rockwell website as well. When you get this slide deck, there is a link to all those documents that I just talked about a second ago. So take a look at those. You can get to those pretty quickly there. Rockwell does plan to have some videos out soon. So they'll be on the Rockwell Automation YouTube channel. And with that, I don't see any additional questions in the Q&A. I will hand it over to Kevin Peterson.
Thank you, David, and appreciate all y'all joining us today. I wanted to review the E3 Plus migration to the E300. The E300 has been out since 2015, so this is nothing new, just kind of a refresher. I want to go over a couple of things and show you one or two slides on this. E3 Plus has been around for 20 years. It was discontinued in October 2019, and the E300 is the direct replacement for this. You can see on the slide, discontinued date 19, end of life at the 18. So the information is there. Dave, you want to drive for me? I was not able to get the slides on here. So you want to go to the next screen? Please, sir. So the E300 has a modular design for application customization with various sensing, control, and communication module options. You can see on the right the chart, it shows you the communication modules, Ethernet, DeviceNet, and then we've recently come out with the E200 PCM, which sits on the top of it, the same two control modules and sensing modules. It just does not have communications for it. Then the control modules, there's various options for that, for different voltages, different outputs, inputs, and then the sensing modules come in three varieties with the current range changing, voltage current, ground fault, current ground fault, or just current. So there's your options on that. Next slide. So to look at the size difference, dimensions of the footprint, they're exactly the same as the E3 Plus overload. That's the same length and same width. The DIN rail mount version of the E300 has the same panel mounting holes location in the DIN rail mount positions. The location of the blue reset button of the E300 communication module is also located on the same XY panel position of the blue reset of the E300. So they're the same in that regards. The difference between the two is that the E300 is actually deeper, about half an inch deeper or 11 millimeters. So that's something to be considered when changing out into MCC buckets. Next slide, Dave. So what I really want to talk about and point out is the emulation mode that the E300 has. The emulation mode, which is parameter 300, exactly replicates the legacy parameter set of the target E3 device it is replacing. The emulation mode is supposed to be is supported by the E300 when it is attached to a DeviceNet comms module. This allows a user to reuse configuration parameters from the E3 Plus when using configuration tools like automatic device recovery, which is ADR acronym, the DeviceNet configuration terminal, which is a separate part you can buy, and that part number would be 193-DNCT, and then through networks for DeviceNet. So next slide, Dave. This chart shows you the actual part numbers that you would be replacing, and it gives a product code that you would put into that parameter 300 to let the E300 know exactly what E3 unit you are replacing it with. This chart just shows you exactly what number that would go, and it allows you to set it up in the parameters. Next, Dave. One thing I want to point out is the wiring terminals are located at different positions, and here's a map, the resource that shows you exactly how to wire the one up from the E300 as opposed to the E3 Plus. Next slide. Here is a migration guide that Rockwell has created. Pretty helpful tool in the transition from the E3 to the E300. MIGRATPP042 is the guide, and you can find that on Rockwell's site, and I'll have a link to it, actually the link to it right on the page there. So useful information. I also want to make you aware of the next 3 slides basically give information on this migration and the E300. There is a large amount of information available to help with the migration. Technical data publication has been put out, a quick start guide, a user's manual, and several knowledge-based articles, as well as many YouTube videos that are available. And I have the links here to go to those. I'd like to kind of talk about the one YouTube video. It's DeviceNet, the E300 DeviceNet 3 E3 Plus Emulation Mode demonstration. It's a 9-minute video that shows step-by-step instruction on how to enable the E3 emulation mode within the 300. And it shows it through using the RS networks for DeviceNet software as well. So some really good stuff there. Next page will give additional links and resources, as I just talked about. Knowledge base has some considerations for UL listings when you modify your motor control center. And then the last slide I have is going to be more resources on the knowledge base that are helpful in different areas. So once again, I just want to point out that this is a direct replacement for the E3 Plus, and the emulation mode can allow you to run it as it was in E3 Plus. And Dave, that's about all I have for that.
Well, I think that's all we have. I don't see any questions in the Q&A at the moment, but appreciate everybody joining us this morning. And if you do have questions or you need assistance, please reach out to your Reynolds salesperson or any of the specialists, and we'd be more than happy to give you a hand in your journey from migrating the E1 Plus to E100s or any of your questions on the E3 to E300. So thanks again and have a good morning.